Most men lose the game before it even begins. Not because they are weak, not because they are not attractive, but because they allow emotions to control their actions, while others use psychology to control the situation. In relationships, power rarely belongs to the person who feels the most. It belongs to the person who understands the rules of human nature. Machiavelli understood a harsh truth centuries ago. People often respond more to perception than reality. They respect what appears valuable, chase what seems difficult to obtain, and lose interest in what becomes too available. Many men ignore this reality and wonder why they are constantly overlooked, manipulated, or taken for granted. Outplaying someone mentally does not mean being cruel or abusive. It means understanding emotional dynamics better than they do. It means remaining calm when they expect you to react. It means thinking strategically when others act impulsively. The man who controls his emotions controls his decisions. The man who controls his decisions controls his future. In this video, you will discover 5 ruthless psychological principles inspired by Machiavellian thinking that can help you maintain your value, protect your peace of mind, and avoid becoming a pawn in someone else's game. Because in the end, the greatest power is not controlling another person. It is mastering yourself. Make sure you subscribe and watch this video to the end. I have something for you at the end of this video. Never reveal your emotional dependence starts with one simple truth most people ignore. The moment someone understands that you need them more than they need you, you quietly lose power in the dynamic. In relationships and interactions, emotional dependence is not just a feeling, it becomes a signal. It tells the other person that your mood, your decisions, and your self-worth are tied to their behavior. Machiavellian psychology teaches a harsh lesson about this kind of imbalance. Once people sense control over your emotions, they stop respecting your boundaries and start managing your reactions. This is not always intentional cruelty. It is human nature. People naturally test limits, consciously or unconsciously, to see how much influence they have over you. If you react too quickly, over-explain yourself, or seek constant reassurance, you are essentially handing them control of the relationship. The stronger position is not to suppress emotions, but to regulate them. A man who is grounded does not rush to prove his value or chase validation after every shift in energy. He observes first, responds second. This creates mystery, and mystery creates respect. When you are emotionally stable, your presence feels different. You are not easily shaken by silence, delays, or mixed signals. You do not panic when attention drops. Instead, you maintain your center and continue your life with focus and direction. This makes you harder to manipulate and harder to replace in someone's mind. Emotional dependence, on the other hand, makes you predictable. Predictability weakens attraction because it removes challenge. When someone knows exactly how you will react, they begin to lose curiosity. Machiavelli emphasized the importance of control, not over others first, but over yourself. If your emotions control your decisions, you are always reacting, never leading. And those who only react will always be one step behind. The real shift happens when you stop seeing validation as something you need to survive emotionally. Instead, you see it as something optional. You are not cold or detached, but selective with your emotional investment. You give attention based on consistency and respect, not impulse or fear of loss. This is where real psychological strength begins. When you are not dependent, you become difficult to destabilize. And when you are difficult to destabilize, you naturally gain influence without forcing it. Make your attention earned, not free, is about understanding one of the most overlooked power principles in human behavior. Attention creates value. In Machiavellian psychology, attention is not just communication, it is currency. Whoever receives it without effort gains power, and whoever gives it too freely loses leverage. Many men make a critical mistake early in relationships and interactions. They overinvest attention at the beginning, giving constant replies, constant availability, and constant emotional presence before anything has been earned. This creates imbalance. When attention is too easy to get, it loses meaning. People do not value what requires no effort. Instead, they start to take it for granted. The key shift is to understand that attention should be conditional, not automatic. Not conditional in a manipulative sense, but conditional on respect, consistency, and mutual effort. When someone shows genuine interest, stability, and value in how they treat you, your attention naturally follows. But when attention is given freely without structure, it creates a one-sided dynamic where you become the provider of emotional energy while receiving little in return. Machiavelli would describe this as giving power away before securing position. The man who understands this does not chase attention, he regulates it. He observes behavior before investing fully. He matches energy instead of exceeding it blindly. This creates psychological tension in a healthy way. People begin to notice that your attention is not guaranteed, and when something is not guaranteed, it becomes more desirable. Scarcity creates value. This does not mean being cold or unavailable all the time. It means being intentional. You engage when there is reason to engage. You withdraw when there is disrespect or inconsistency. You do not reward confusion with extra effort. You do not reward neglect with over-attention. Instead, you set an invisible standard. If you want access to my attention, you must show effort that justifies it. This approach also protects your emotional stability. When your attention is not freely distributed, you avoid burnout, frustration, and emotional imbalance. You stop overthinking every small change in someone's behavior because you are not over-invested in the first place. This gives you clarity. It allows you to see people for who they really are instead of who you hope they are. Over time, this creates a strong psychological position. People begin to respect your presence more because it is not easily obtained. They become more mindful of how they treat you because they understand access is not automatic. In simple terms, when attention is earned, it carries weight. When it is free, it becomes meaningless noise. The man who controls his attention controls the emotional economy of every interaction he enters. Master the power of silence is one of the most dangerous psychological tools a man can understand. Yet most people misuse it or completely ignore it. Silence is not weakness, and it is not avoidance. In Machiavellian thinking, silence is control. It is the ability to observe without revealing your next move, to listen without exposing your emotions, and to withhold reaction when others expect you to break. In relationships, silence becomes even more powerful because emotions are always trying to pull responses out of you. Take the example of Tunde and Aisha. Tunde used to react instantly to everything Aisha did. If she delayed replies, he would question her. If she changed her tone, he would panic. If she became distant, he would send multiple messages trying to fix it immediately. Over time, Aisha started to lose respect for his presence, not because she hated him, but because she could predict him completely. There was no mystery, no emotional restraint, no space for curiosity. She knew exactly how he would respond every single time. Then something changed when Tunde started practicing silence. Not silent out of anger, but silent out of control. When Aisha delayed replies, he did not chase. When she acted distant, he did not immediately seek clarification. He observed first. He continued his own life. He let space exist without rushing to fill it. At first, Aisha thought he was losing interest. But slowly, something shifted. She started paying attention more. She started wondering what he was thinking. She started initiating conversations more carefully. The silence created uncertainty, and uncertainty created curiosity. Machiavellian psychology explains this clearly. People value what they cannot fully read. Silence forces others to project their thoughts onto you, and that projection increases your perceived value. But silence must be controlled. It is not emotional shutdown, it is strategic restraint. A man who talks too much loses mystery. A man who reacts too quickly loses respect. A man who stays silent at the right moments gains psychological weight. In relationships, silence also protects your emotional position. When you stop over-explaining yourself, you stop weakening your own frame. You do not chase understanding from someone who is currently not in the right emotional space to give it. Instead, you allow time and behavior to reveal truth. Silence becomes a filter. Those who respect you will step closer. Those who manipulate emotional reactions will feel uncomfortable and reveal themselves. The power of silence is not about playing games. It is about refusing to be emotionally predictable. Once you become unpredictable in your reactions, but stable in your presence, people start adjusting their behavior around you. That is influence without force. Stay unpredictable and hard to read is a psychological advantage that most men lose without realizing it. In Machiavellian thinking, predictability is weakness because it allows others to map your behavior, anticipate your reactions, and control the emotional direction of the relationship. When someone can easily predict what you will do next, they stop being curious about you. And when curiosity dies, attraction slowly fades. In relationships, this plays out in subtle but powerful ways. Take the example of Daniel and Kemi. At the beginning, Daniel was full of energy and excitement. He texted consistently, responded instantly, and always made his feelings obvious. If Kemi was happy, he was happy. If she was distant, he became anxious. Over time, Kemi began to understand his emotional pattern completely. She knew how he would respond to every situation. There was no mystery left. She could predict his moods, his availability, and even his emotional reactions. Without realizing it, Daniel had made himself emotionally transparent. Kemi was not necessarily mistreating him, but the dynamic had shifted. She became more passive because she no longer felt the need to pursue or wonder. Then Daniel began to change his behavior. He did not become cold or disrespectful. He simply became less predictable. Some days he was fully engaged. Other times he was focused on his own goals and less available. He stopped explaining every small action. He stopped reacting immediately to every message or emotional shift. Kemi started noticing the difference. She could no longer fully predict his emotional state or availability. This created a subtle tension in her mind. She began to think about him more often, not because he was distant, but because he was no longer fully readable. Machiavellian psychology explains this clearly. The human mind is naturally drawn to what it cannot fully understand. Predictability creates comfort, but it destroys tension, and without tension, attraction weakens. Being unpredictable does not mean being unstable or toxic. It means breaking repetitive emotional patterns. It means not giving the same reaction every time. It means not making your emotions fully accessible for others to map out. A man who is hard to read controls the psychological space in a relationship because the other person is always slightly unsure of where they stand. That uncertainty creates awareness. It forces respect. It increases attention without effort. However, unpredictability must be controlled. It is not about chaos. It is about balance. You remain consistent in your values, but flexible in your emotional expression. You do not let anyone fully script your behavior. Instead, you move with intention, not habit. Over time, this makes you more mentally dominant in the dynamic, because people cannot easily categorize you. And when they cannot categorize you, they pay closer attention. In relationships, the man who is predictable becomes background noise. The man who is unpredictable becomes a psychological focus. Be willing to walk away is the ultimate psychological position in any relationship dynamic, because it establishes one simple truth. You are not trapped, and you are not dependent. In Machiavellian psychology, power always favors the person who is least emotionally attached to the outcome. The moment someone realizes you cannot leave, They begin to test your limits. But the moment they sense that you can leave at any time, they start to adjust their behavior. This is not about threatening departure or using manipulation. It is about internal strength and self-respect. Take the example of Chidi and Lara. Chidi cared deeply about Lara, but over time he began to tolerate behavior that made him uncomfortable. She would cancel plans last minute, reply inconsistently, and sometimes dismiss his concerns. At first, Chidi stayed quiet because he feared losing her. That fear slowly became visible in how he acted. He started overcompensating, giving more attention and accepting less in return. Lara did not necessarily intend to dominate him, but she gradually lost respect for his boundaries because she could sense he would not walk away. The dynamic shifted. Chidi became emotionally available but structurally weak in the relationship. Then came the turning point. Chidi stopped trying to force connection. He did not argue or beg for change. He simply began to detach emotionally and focus on his own direction. When Lara canceled plans, he no longer rearranged his life around her schedule. When she was inconsistent, he stopped over-investing his energy to maintain contact. Something unexpected happened. Lara began to notice the change in his behavior. The pressure was gone, but so was the over-availability she had become used to. For the first time, she could sense that Chidi was no longer operating from fear of loss. He was operating from self-respect. Machiavellian thinking explains this clearly. Value increases when access is not guaranteed. When someone knows you are willing to walk away, they are forced to reassess how they treat you. Not because you demanded it, but because your absence becomes a real possibility. The power of walking away is not in the act itself, but in the willingness behind it. It is the internal message that says your peace, dignity, and emotional stability are more important than any single connection. This mindset changes everything. You stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop accepting behavior that weakens your self-worth. You stop staying in situations that require you to shrink yourself to maintain them. In relationships, this creates a strong psychological frame. You are present, but not trapped. You are invested, but not dependent. You care, but you do not beg. And because of this, your presence carries weight. The irony is that the less afraid you are of losing someone, the more respect you gain in how they treat you. Walking away is not about losing people. It is about refusing to lose yourself. In Machiavellian psychology, power in relationships is never about control through force. It is about control through awareness. The man who understands emotional dependence, attention, silence, unpredictability, and the willingness to walk away is no longer easy to manipulate. He does not react out of fear. He moves with intention. He observes before responding and values himself before validating others. This mindset does not make him cruel. It makes him grounded. At the core of it all, the real victory is not outplaying someone else, but refusing to lose yourself while dealing with them. That is the highest form of psychological strength.